In the year 1206, a man who had once been enslaved, hunted, and left to starve rose to unite the fierce, fractious tribes of the Mongolian steppe. His name was Temujin, soon to be known as Genghis Khan, and in just 21 years, he would conquer more land than the Roman Empire managed in 400. By the time he died in 1227, his empire stretched from the shores of the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, over 12 million square miles of territory. This is the story of how a man who began with nothing built the largest contiguous land empire in world history. Temujin was born around 1162, near the rugged boundary between Mongolia and Siberia, a land of brutal winters and endless winds that shaped character as much as geography. His early years were marked by tragedy. When Temujin was only 9, his father was poisoned by rival Tatars. Leadership on the steppe usually passed from father to son, but Temujin was too young to command. The clan abandoned his widowed mother and her children, leaving them to survive alone on the unforgiving plains. The family lived through sheer will. They hunted marmots, dug for wild onions, and survived on whatever nature offered. Hunger was constant. Danger was everywhere. This harsh environment taught Temujin that only decisive action ensured survival. That reality became clear when he was just 10. In a dispute over food, Temujin killed his half-brother Bektur, a grim act, but one that asserted his authority within a family struggling to survive. It was a moment that revealed both the harshness of his world and the ruthlessness he would later wield with strategic precision. As a teenager, Temujin faced humiliation and captivity when he was seized by a rival tribe. They'd placed a heavy wooden collar around his neck, marking him as a slave. He escaped with the help of a sympathetic guard, but the memory of being powerless never faded. Instead, it shaped his belief that loyalty was earned through fairness and leadership, not inherited through bloodline. By the age of 20, he had no noble backing, no herds, and no warriors. Yet Temujin carried something far more valuable, the vision of a united Mongol nation. He began to challenge centuries of tradition. Instead of promoting leaders based on ancestry, he elevated men based on loyalty, ability, and proven courage. This meritocratic approach drew outcasts, orphans, and even former enemies to his side. He offered them something steppe society rarely provided: equality and opportunity. As he gained followers, his reputation spread. Temujin forged alliances through diplomacy, marriage, and strategic friendships. Through a series of battles from the 1190s to the early 1200s, he systematically defeated rival tribes, the Merkits, Terite, and Naiman. Each victory brought new warriors into his camp. Those who resisted were broken. Those who submitted were folded into a growing vision of unity. In the spring of 1206, the Mongol tribes gathered for a formal council known as a Kurultai. There, at 44 years old, Temujin was proclaimed Genghis Khan, universal ruler of all Mongols. The Mongol nation was born, but the transformation was only beginning. Genghis Khan reorganized his military into an advanced decimal system, units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. This ensured structure, uniformity, and coordination across vast distances. He abolished tribal divisions and mixed men from different clans into the same units, ensuring their primary loyalty was to him, not to their old tribe leaders. Within this system, he created one of the most efficient military forces the world had ever seen. The Mongol army became a phenomenon unmatched in speed, organization, and adaptability. Every warrior was a skilled horseman, trained from childhood to ride with confidence across treacherous terrain. Their primary weapon, the composite bow, could fire arrows with deadly accuracy at long range, even while twisting backward in a full retreat. Each warrior traveled with multiple horses, allowing them to rotate mounts and sustain incredible endurance. This mobility enabled Mongol armies to move at breathtaking speeds. To their enemies, they seemed to appear from nowhere. Genghis Khan also mastered psychological warfare. His scouts spread exaggerated stories about Mongol conquest, weakening enemy morale long before battles began. At night, they lit countless campfires to create the illusion of vast numbers. Once a conflict began, the Mongols combined rapid movement with relentless precision. Their tactics were flexible: feigned retreats, encirclements, ambushes, and lightning assaults. When faced with fortified cities, they adapted swiftly. Captured engineers introduced siege towers, catapults, and gunpowder-based weapons. The Mongols absorbed every useful technique and used it without hesitation. Adaptability became their greatest advantage. Between 1205 and 1215, Genghis Khan launched campaigns against the powerful Jin dynasty in northern China. In 1211, he personally led an army through the passes of the Great Wall. At the Battle of Yehuling, the Mongols annihilated a massive Jin force, outmaneuvering them in mountains the Jin believed were impenetrable. 4 years later, in 1215, they captured Zhongdu, modern Beijing, after a long siege. However, Genghis Khan's genius extended beyond conquest. He understood that ruling a sedentary agricultural civilization required administrative expertise. Instead of replacing existing systems, he incorporated them. He recruited Chinese officials to manage taxation, records, and urban governance. This pragmatic approach allowed the Mongols to rule efficiently. Under Genghis Khan, trade flourished across the Silk Road. Historians call this period Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace, which enabled a flow of knowledge, goods, and culture across Eurasia at a scale never seen before. In 1218, hoping to establish peaceful trade with the powerful Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis Khan sent a caravan of merchants. Instead, the governor of the city of Ochar executed them and seized their goods. When Genghis Khan demanded accountability, the Khwarezmian Shah responded with arrogance, killing his envoys. This insult ignited one of the most devastating campaigns in medieval history. Between 1219 and 1221, the Mongols stormed into Central Asia. They besieged city after city. Bukhara fell. Samarkand followed. The city of Urgench resisted fiercely and was destroyed almost entirely. The Mongols relentlessly pursued the Shah, who fled across his own empire until he died in isolation on an island in the Caspian Sea. The campaign demonstrated Genghis Khan's unwavering principle: surrender and live. Resist and be destroyed. Word spread across Asia and Europe. Cities began to surrender upon just hearing the Mongols' approach. By 1227, the year of his death, the empire stretched across nearly the entire width of Asia. But Genghis Khan's legacy extended beyond territorial expansion. He established the Yasa, a unified legal code that applied to all subjects. He built the Yam, a vast relay network of stations that allowed communication across thousands of miles. And he enforced religious tolerance, protecting Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and many others. He died in August 1227, possibly from injuries sustained after falling from his horse. His burial site remains a mystery. Yet his empire expanded for another half-century under his sons and grandsons, eventually becoming the largest land empire in history. Genghis Khan's success rested on 3 pillars. First, meritocracy. He promoted men based on ability, ensuring loyalty and excellence. Second, adaptability. He absorbed technologies, strategies, and administrative systems from every civilization he encountered. And third, consistent consequences. All who faced the Mongols understood the rules: surrender and prosper, or resist and be destroyed. Predictability, however ruthless, was a powerful diplomatic weapon. Although the empire eventually fractured and dissolved, its influence endured. It revitalized global trade, facilitated cultural exchange, and reshaped world history. And the man who began with nothing, an outcast child on the frozen steppe, became one of the most transformative leaders the world has ever known. This is Mythovia, where history lives, breathes, and speaks. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey, be sure to subscribe for more stories from the past.